Right?
Yep. So you can just start talking to the people, tell them what they tuning into.
Hey, everybody. This is the number one and first show for the mandate. I am Daryl, the mentor, and I am so grateful for the opportunity with this particular platform, which is going to be a platform for black men, for men of color, to help people with real issues, real resolution, real transparency. We want to definitely have conversations ranging from fatherhood, transparency. We want to talk about forgiveness. We're going to talk about community. We're going to talk about education, mental health, singleness, abstinence, sex. We're going to talk about religion, prayer, meditation, financial literacy, being black in the workplace. Ooh, right? And we're going to talk about daughters and sons, husbands, fiancés, and so forth. So I am so grateful that you got an opportunity to tune in today. And this is going to be a show that's going to go every Monday going forward at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm just so very grateful that you decided to join me and my guests that will be coming on shortly. So this is going to be a show. This is a platform definitely for healing. We definitely want the women to chime into it as well, because where would we as men be without you? And we want you to be able to chime in because we want you to have an understanding about your sons, about your boyfriends, about your fiancés, about your brother, about your father, about your husbands or husbands to be. So we definitely want you to tune in with us and join us, ladies, so that you can get clarity and understanding about the men that are in your life and the men that will be in your life or the men that are coming into your life.
Tom, he's here.
My guest has arrived, and he is Leroy McKenzie Jr. He is an author, and he is an entrepreneur, and he is a friend of myself and my wife, and definitely. And he is has a book, a fabulous book that he has written, and it is called "The Power of a Man: Faith, Family, Finance, and Future." Faith, family, finance, and future. Hey, Leroy. Hey, so I want to introduce you guys to Leroy. Hey, Leroy, how you doing?
My brother, my brother, my brother. I am excellent. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man.
Man,
I'm
this
good.
Instagram thing is like right.
Yeah. It is, man. It is. So how you doing, brother? You good?
Hey, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. How about yourself? How about yourself?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much, man, for joining me on this mission, on this purpose. Um,
Yes.
it's something that is always been on my heart to do out of the many things that I do, and of course my wife does. But you and I had a conversation. Let's just jump right in, if you don't mind. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
you and I had a conversation after myself and my wife was on Foxhole. Shout out to Foxhole. You can go to foxhole.tv and Dr. Sean, the Book of Sean. We were on that show talking about marriage. And you and I had a conversation, but tonight's show, we're talking about black men and why black men should cry, don't cry, and the advantages or disadvantages to either. Um, and so just kind of let's talk about a little bit about what you and I discussed in regards. So I know that particular show for me was healing, because the way that Dr. Sean goes into his questions and the in-depthness of it, and he's so very skilled and blessed at that, and I just aspire to get there at some point. Um, but let's talk to me about your experience with uh, being a black man and your emotional state or lack of emotion, or how you feel about black men crying or not crying and so forth.
Well, I think and in preparation for our discussion tonight, I
Mm-hmm.
started thinking about a couple of things.
Okay.
One, of course, thinking about how we grow up as little boys,
Yeah.
and that's where it usually starts when it comes to us being taught how to either not cry
Mm.
or it's okay to cry.
Right.
And I think most of us men, and those that are watching, and women can probably, they've either done this to their sons
Yes.
or they may have seen it done to their sons, where
Right.
they tell their little boys, big boys don't cry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If we fall down, get up, get up. Don't cry. Dry them tears up. You know
Yep.
that whole dynamic. We're
Mm-hmm.
taught not to cry, and I started thinking, Daryl, and I'm like, I cannot remember one single time that I seen my dad cry. I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
say that he didn't cry. I
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
saw my dad cry. I
Wow.
mean,
Yeah.
my dad did the eulogy of the of my grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember watching my dad and saying he didn't. I mean, did not shed a
Yeah.
tear. And like I
Yeah.
said, he might have done it in his private time
Mm-hmm.
to himself,
Right.
but I never physically saw my father cry.
You never saw the
And
demonstration of that and it
right,
being okay.
right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was thinking about this today. I'm like, man, I never saw, and even with my mom, I only remember seeing my mom cry once.
Mm.
One time.
Right.
In my 52 years, I've only seen my parents cry once.
Yeah.
Out of
Yeah.
everything that they've been through, and I mean, my dad was in the hospital the same time that his mother passed away.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he could not go to her funeral because that's how sick he was at that
Yeah.
time. They weren't
Wow.
going to let him go to
Right.
they
Right.
weren't going to release him to go to the hospital to see her. And
Right.
I'm just like, man, that had to have been.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to be in an emotional wreck. Not be. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
being able to go to my own mother's fruit, the
Mother's
woman that
funeral. Yeah.
brought me into this world,
Yeah.
and
Your
not
whole
being able to
foundation is
see.
in your mother alive at
Yeah,
the time. Yeah.
to be able to see her off, and I'm just like, wow. And I started thinking about that. I'm like, man. So we get this from our being young little boys. We
Mm-hmm.
get told this thing to not cry, and we didn't understand or don't understand
Yeah.
how that's connected to our emotions,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
that is one of our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So as we get older, and I'm sure most men have, we
Mm-hmm.
become seen as emotionless,
Yes.
not
Yep.
being emotional,
Yep.
not being able to open up
Mm-hmm.
to to our girlfriend, our spouse,
Yeah.
whoever that may be.
Yeah.
Where because and a lot of women, now let me help y'all out. Y'all may not understand how and why that's connected, and it's connected because of what we've been told, what
Mm-hmm.
we've been conditioned to do as
Yeah.
men.
Yeah.
Because crying is seen as, and you can tell
Yep.
me if this is how
Yep.
you think of it too. Crying has been seen is seen as a sign of weakness.
Yeah. Or
And
being feminine.
right, right,
Mm-hmm.
being right,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
exactly. So if you cry, then hey, then you must be weak, or like you said, you must be feminine, or
Mm-hmm.
you just you will be seen as somebody that can get preyed upon,
Yep.
or just kind of taken advantage of and everything like that. So
Yeah.
us holding back and being and crying has been, I call it a part of the miseducation of
Yeah.
manhood,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
miseducation of us and the things that we've been taught about that. Oh no, that's not manhood. No, it's a part of who we are as men, just
Mm-hmm.
like it's a
Mm-hmm.
part of who they are as women. Now I'll say this too: there's always a time and place for it. I ain't
Yeah.
saying we have to at the every other day
Right.
we're crying and that type of thing. But
Right.
when something touches us in
Yeah.
such a way that we can be emotional and
Mm-hmm.
that vulnerable, because crying is a part of vulnerability. It
It
is
definitely
being
is.
vulnerable.
And it's a
Yeah,
part of being in touch with your emotions. It's a part of being
right.
in touch with who you are at the core of who you are, and you having that knowledge about yourself, and you being confident in that, hey, this bothered me, hurt me to this degree that I ended up crying. And as you were
Mm-hmm.
talking, I was thinking about more is caught than is taught, right?
Mm,
More is
mm,
caught than is taught. And when you said about, you being younger and you never seeing, that example from your father or from your mother, even in the most, terrible situations, they never cried. That sends you more of a message than if they said, like we talked about, hey, when a kid falls, or a mother says, hey, don't cry, suck it up.
mm-hmm.
What you are teaching us, and because I always believe, Leroy, I always believe that, you know, we're not raising children, we're raising adults,
Mm,
right?
mm,
We're raising
mm-hmm.
adults. We're not raising children, we're raising adults. Adults becoming, even though they're in a childlike form at that particular time. And so if we're not being transparent about who we are as men, as fathers, husbands, fiancés, boyfriends, you know, and we're not in touch with ourselves, and we're not whole enough to do the work on ourselves, then how
Mm.
are we even ready or prepared to have a child, a son,
Yep.
or to have children, or to be in a relationship with anybody?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so when you even talked about, your father not even be able to go to his mother's funeral, if there was no other time that you would have
Time. Whew.
released that, and I can identify, not that I didn't go to my mother's funeral. My mother just recently passed, you know, in 2020, and this is my very first Mother's Day
Mother's Day.
without
Mm.
my Rock of Gibraltar, my mother.
Wow.
And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that, and I'm still in it, if you know what I'm saying. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that
No,
I've really
absolutely.
fully yet grieved in
Mm.
the totality of the weight of what that did, though I
Mm-hmm.
have done it. And I'm grateful for it, because I have gotten more in touch with whom I am, in my intimate self, than I have. Let me give you this, for instance. I didn't cry a full-fledged cry until I was 30.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I've been on my
Mm-hmm.
own since I was 12, been out in the street, doing the things that I was doing on a large level. And I didn't cry until one of my close friends was shot and killed and died in my arms.
Mm.
That was the
Mm.
first real, full, close cry that I had.
Mm.
And so when you talk about, and basically what we're talking about is being transparent, being aware of who we are as men, you know. And when you think about, let me ask you this question as I'm thinking about it. Do you feel that we can or have the ability to? Why do we have to have the? Why do we always have to appear strong all the time? Because I remember you saying, hey, when you talk about a funeral, and I've been to multiple funerals, and every time I go to a funeral, my brothers, I don't even care if you're a family member, if that was your brother, sister, we all in there with sunglasses on, and nobody is, no, none of us are, none of the brothers I've seen are though you may have a reputation depending on, your lifestyle, I've never seen brothers in there broken down, crying necessarily. I mean, really feeling the loss of the individual that passed away. Give me your insight on what you think about that.
Well, I think we've been, like I said, it goes back to when we were little boys, and we were taught that big boys don't cry. So at a
Yep.
funeral, the man, or you're not a man if you are, like we said, if you're emotional. So that same applies to when we're at a funeral. We're supposed to be the strong person, the strong family member that people can lean on in those times. We can't be seen as falling apart at a funeral. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a perfect example. Two things. I'll start with the first one because I watched it specifically because I knew you and I were going to be talking about black men crying, and I sent it to Kendall not too long ago. And I know you probably didn't get a chance to see it, but yesterday they did an interview with Jalen Rose.
I saw that today.
Did you? Yeah.
Yes.
They did an interview with him on the NBA Countdown, and they did a tribute to his mother. I don't know why they did it. They did, but they decided to do a tribute to his mother.
He just recently lost his mother, and so
he said 90 days ago he lost his mother.
First Mother's Day without it.
It was his first Mother's Day without her, and he got emotional on camera, and that was okay.
Yes, it was okay.
That was okay. And even I'll take you back to when Kobe passed away, and you had Shaq, Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, and what's his name? Eddie. I think it's Eddie Johnson, the guy that usually does the narrating, the talking.
Right.
But they had the panel, and they were talking about Kobe and all, the great man that he was and everything like that. And they even had Jerry West on there. But they got emotional.
Yeah.
They weren't afraid to show that, and I was so glad to see that they did not feel as if that they had to put on this persona, that they weren't hurting, and that they had just lost their brother, because to them that was somebody we all felt connected to Kobe.
Yeah, we all felt that.
But these were guys that actually knew him on an intimate level. They knew him personally. So know that they had those feelings and everything like that, but they were able to show their emotions. And even Michael Jordan at Kobe's funeral, giving the eulogy, he was like, I said I wasn't going. He even said it. I said I wasn't going to cry because it was going to be just another meme.
Even just saying that statement goes right back to what we are taught, or should I say, what we catch as children from our loved ones or our parents. Exactly.
Yeah, and even here's the last thing. One of my closest friends from college, he passed away a couple years ago, but his mother had passed away some years ago, some years ago, and then his father. But I remember being at his mother's funeral, and I came in, and of course him and his family were sitting up front, and all we did was after I acknowledged his mother, I came to him because he was sitting right on the end, and we didn't say anything. We didn't say anything to each other, and all he did was just hug me, and I could tell it was so emotional for him, and it was just like, thank you for being here. He could release himself because he knew he was hurting.
Yeah,
and he had somebody that he could comfort, that he could take comfort in, because of the relationship that he and I had, the friendship that we had, the bond that we had. And he was able to release some of what he was feeling right then and there. And he cried a little bit there, but I could tell, you just know the way that he held on to me. It was just like, it was just like, without saying words to each other, it was his way of saying, thank you for being here. Thank you
Right.
for being here for me. And sometimes we do get caught up in having to have this Superman, I call it the
Yeah.
Superman mentality, that
Hmm.
we feel like we have to do everything. And
Yeah.
I tell women this all the time, and especially nowadays, and I tell the fellas this too, bruh, you can't do it all. You
You
weren't
cannot.
created to do it all.
Right.
You weren't created to do it all.
Right.
If we were created to do it all and didn't need anyone, God would not have created woman. But
That's
he
right.
created her because we need her.
We need her.
We
Right.
need her for different aspects of our lives. And that's one aspect of our life that we need them so that we can be vulnerable. If we can't be vulnerable with anybody else,
Yeah.
we need to be able to be vulnerable with our mothers, our
Yeah.
fathers, our spouse, and our spouses, or our
Yeah.
and our girlfriends. Those are the people that we should be able to feel where we can
We can let. Yeah.
let that out, let
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
Because here's what happens with that: if you continue to not show emotion, it backs up in your body.
Yes.
You continue to hold it, and you hold it, and I tell people this too. It's gonna come out one way or the other.
One way or another. Yep.
It
Absolutely.
will come out one way or the other. The body will do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I hate to use this analogy, but it's the only way that we can explain it.
Go ahead. Make
You
it
have to go
plain,
to the
brother.
bathroom. You,
Make it
you
plain.
have to go to the bathroom. Now
Yeah.
imagine not being able to go to the bathroom and all those toxins and
Right.
toxic bacteria up inside you. Well, your spirit is the same way. Your
Yeah.
body has to release it.
Has
It
to
has
release.
to
Yep.
release it.
Yeah.
It has to
Yeah.
release it. So crying is a way to release that emotional
Mm-hmm.
toxins that
Mm-hmm.
are inside of us. And
Yeah.
because if we don't, and I know you probably know this, being a
Mm-hmm.
mentor and doing the things that you do, you
Yeah.
see the destructiveness
Oh,
that comes
absolutely.
with that
Oh, yeah.
when you do hold it in, and
Yeah.
those men that do hold it in and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something that, we feel like, innately we are brought into the world, and we are born into this place where we feel like we have to, like, provider, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's automatic. I mean, no one has to tell you, no one has to say this is what you do as a man. Instinctively, from birth, from the womb, you automatically know, as men, you are to be a provider. And that covers a gamut of things. But in being that, you may not always meet those expectations of quote unquote provider in every way, right? At
Mm-hmm.
all
Mm-hmm.
times. And when we don't meet what the idea is, we as men, we start to self-deflate, or not believe that we are, we are good enough, and so forth and so on, you know, and it is, in me growing up without a father figure, or my
Mm-hmm.
biological father,
Mm-hmm.
I sought out other brothers or men or older brothers who was in the circle that I was in the lifestyle that I was in. They were
Mm-hmm.
good brothers, but we were just involved in the wrong things. And
Mm-hmm.
even innately, when as I said earlier, more is caught than is taught. Just watching them, the signs and signals that they were sending to me about, being a real man is all about money, is all about how many women you rolling with, the best clothes, the best whips, all of that kind of thing. And it wasn't about being in touch with your emotions, or being in touch with you as a man who is a man of stature, but yet a man who can be emotional, and who can be down to earth, and who can be transparent. And I know for myself, it took a long time for me, because uh, of me being hurt and choosing the wrong people early
Mm-hmm.
on, you know, making people that should have just been associate friends and people that should have been neither. They should have been up on the balcony somewhere. You bringing them in close. You find you got jealous people around you and all this. So
Absolutely.
what that does, and what that did for me, it made me, you know, recluse, in the sense that I started becoming hardened because of the lifestyle that I was living, being in the street and dealing drugs and all these things on a high level, and drug smuggling and money laundering and all that. I became hard, right? And becoming hard and putting that armor on, I know how to, you know, be hard. And now I've been learning over the last years, and I give a lot of credit to my wife, telling me how my lifestyle that I was living and the things I was doing built me up to being hard. 30 years ago. And as I'm growing and learning and watching and reading and going through therapy, which I will tell brothers today, which I wasn't an advocate. I was thinking, like most of us think, most brothers think, hey, we just barrel through everything, no matter what your losses are, no matter what happens to you, no matter, who hurt you, no matter, what girl cheats on you or who, whatever. We barrel through it. Drown is not an option. We continue to just go forward, and we believe that we have no residue from all the stuff, family-oriented and stuff that we've been through. We think we got no residue. So when we come into these relationships, whether it be business relationships, whether it be personal relationships and things of that nature, we come into these things thinking we good. Hey, I'm good. I don't need any of that. I don't need to cry or show emotion. So speak a little bit about your emotional journey from when you said that your father didn't demonstrate that to where and who you are and how you are in relationships or in business today.
Well, I'll look at it this way. Like I said, there's a time and place for things, right? And I'm gonna be real transparent with y'all, right?
I am, so please be. I don't want nothing less than transparency on you.
back in college. This is my senior year. My senior year in college, and you know how there's when you're a senior, there's the space between when you take your final exam and then when you actually graduate, right?
Yep.
During that time, I found out at that time that my girlfriend was cheating on me. You talking, and it was a good thing that I finished my exams, because I'd have just been.
Now, how long were you together? How long were you together?
We had been together at least, what was that? At least a year. It was at least a year or so. Because I met her my I believe it was my I'm sorry, am I thinking of the wrong person? I don't want to be thinking of the wrong person.
Get right people now. Don't mess up.
No. It was my senior year. It was my senior year in college, and I'd met her during my internship at the hotel that I was working at, and we met there, and it was about a year, because that following year I was graduating. So you're talking from 91-ish going into 92.
Okay.
So find out that she's cheating on me. And that fiasco, I ain't even going. I mean, I was like, man, this is just, the way that it all fell down. I was hot.
And you were in college with a girlfriend, so you were vested.
Yeah. So I'm at my graduation, totally feeling like I don't want to be here. This is how bad I was in the mindset that I gotten into. Didn't want to be there. Was totally angry and everything like that. And so and this was after I graduated, and I'm at the house, I'm at home, and I got this sad look all on my face, look like Eddie Murphy and Boomerang. Remember he had to walk through the hall with all the girls. I had that kind of look on my face. But I remember my mother saying this to me. She was like, "What is wrong with you?" And so I'm like, "Well, Ma, she hurt me, and I'm this, that, and the other." She was like, "Boy, fix your face."
Right.
She was like, Fiction said, get over it. And I'm like,
Uh,
Mama,
right.
I'm hurting.
Here's
You
that. Here's
know,
that message again. That's that message again. Don't cry. Yeah.
so I guess she saw but here's what that did for me. It did one or two things. It did two things for me. One, it does go into, like you were saying, that persona that we get, men aren't supposed to be emotional and everything like that. But two, I promised myself that I would never allow a woman to affect me in
Ooh.
that way,
Been there, brother. Been there.
that much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you go through breakups and stuff like that, but I was never going to allow myself to allow someone to have that much
Yes.
control
Yes.
over my
Yes.
emotions, where they would put me in that mindset and that
Over your
state of
heart.
mind,
Yes. Yes.
over my heart and
Yes.
everything like that. So we do become guarded, just because of the relationships and things that we go through in
Mm-hmm.
life, and turn that into business. Now, as I go along, my dad always taught me this. He said, no one owes you anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nothing. He
Yeah.
said, and I remember him telling me, he said, me and your mother, we don't even owe you anything.
Right. Right.
Nothing is ever going to be given to you.
Given to you.
And
Yep.
he did that. He was my high school basketball coach, right?
Oh my
JV
God.
basketball coach. So I'm battling. I'm playing point guard, and I'm battling for the starting position.
Mm-hmm.
To start the season, he gives the position to the other young man that I'm competing with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hot because I knew I
Right.
was I was better than this dude, and
And you
even
my
the other
dad. And you
guys,
my dad. Right.
right? So even the other guys were like, "Dude, you better than him."
Mm-hmm.
So I get totally upset about it, and with your dad, you get up the nerve to say, I got up the nerve to say, Dad, why is he starting over me? And it was, I think, the second or third game into the season, he puts me in it, and from then on I started. But when he and I had this conversation, he said, I wanted you to understand something. He said, I wanted the guys on the team to understand that even though you were my son, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to just give you I wasn't
Yeah.
just going to give it to you.
Yeah. That's a
So
good lesson. That's
you
a good
had
lesson.
to earn it just like they do. And that's when he
Mm-hmm.
told me, nobody owes you anything. Nobody's
Yeah.
going to give you anything.
Yeah.
So those were a part of that, learning how to take things,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing the difference between your emotion and understanding, hey, yeah, I could have cried about that situation
Mm-hmm.
and everything like that. And yeah, I did pout a little bit,
Right.
but
Right. Right.
but him and I having the conversation, I began to understand what he did at that
Mm-hmm.
time. And
Mm-hmm.
ever since then, I lie to you not, Daryl, when it comes to business, when it comes to relationships, always think about, that's always in my
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is going to give you anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're gonna have to work for things. And you can get emotional about it if you use your emotion the right way.
Yes.
We can't
Right.
be crying about every
Mm-hmm.
little thing, because
Right.
there's some things gonna be hurt. Like if I don't get a particular deal, or if I don't
Yeah.
get a particular client, yeah,
Yeah.
that
Disappointment.
kind
Right.
of,
Right. Right.
yeah, I'm disappointed. That's a great word. I'm
Mm-hmm.
disappointed in it, but I don't allow myself to say, oh man, you know what, sitting there crying about that. But
Right.
on the flip side of that, um, if I'm involved with someone that I do care about, and that that I may lose someone, or I have a when my friend, the one that I told you about from college, when he
Mm-hmm.
passed away, yeah, I was crying. I cried about it. I
Yeah.
even remember even having a conversation with my dad before he passed away several years ago, and we were talking about, because I just, my grandmother on my mom's side had just passed away,
Right.
and he and I were having a conversation. And I was telling him, I'm like, Dad, I'm gonna cry when you and Mom leave here. I
Yeah.
said, because I said, in life, I said, you have to, you either sitting on that front row or you're in the casket. That was one of the
Yep.
things that I came to
Yeah.
understand. That's the
Yeah.
cycle of life. We've got
Yeah.
to go through it. We've got to either sit on that front row or we're going to be in the casket.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to deal with it. I told him, I said, I'm a boo-hoo. I said, I'm a cry.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
because you're the person that brought me in, that gave me life.
Gave life.
I said, so I have a, like you said before, I have a right to be emotional about that.
Exactly.
Because
Yep.
that's the physical
That's
attachment
the
that I have
impact.
in
That's the
understanding that.
impact that that individual has made on your life, and now something's happened to that individual. That's the impact of what you're feeling. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to understand as men and women too, and you know, women too, but more so for us because of how we've been taught growing up.
Yep.
We have to we haven't been taught this, and you tell me what you think about this. We haven't
Yep.
been taught when to cry and understand there's certain situations like we just talked about that it is okay, and then when it's when we can be called we'll be called I guess as simps or whatever, where we're too emotional.
Yeah.
There's a
Right.
thing where
Right.
where you can
Right.
be too emotional,
And
but
that is a real
understanding
thing.
as
That is a
men,
real thing too. That is definitely a real
you
thing
know,
too. Yeah.
but understanding how to navigate that as men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. A couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
In when you talked about Jalen Rose,
Yes.
I caught it today and just scrolling. Had a few minutes,
Okay.
that wasn't doing business and just scroll, and I caught that, man, and it was
Yeah.
just
You can
I
see.
felt him because I'm in the same situation.
Mm.
One,
Right.
so I can
Right. Right.
identify, and two, I was grateful because if you consider yourselves, or we, consider ourselves servant leaders as we are, and if you believe that, and anybody who believes, who's listening, who believes you're a leader, you're only a leader if people are following you. If nobody's following you, you're just taking a long walk. Okay?
Absolutely.
So, but when you have people that are following you, me being a teacher for 20 years and mentoring a lot of different men and families, people older than myself and younger than myself, teens, when I saw Jalen Rose express his emotion and him being the leader that he is in his field of influence and sphere of influence,
Mm-hmm.
I was grateful about it. I even started crying because I was actually sitting in my car when I watched it. I started crying because
Okay.
it was just
Mm-hmm.
it just opened up my cap, so to speak, on my
Yeah.
soda bottle.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
I was grateful about it, and the compassion that he showed, and the honor that he was showing his mother and his grandmother, because I had the same situation with my grandmother. So that's
Mm-hmm.
one with that. When you went and you talked about, your college sweetheart, me being in college as well and knowing the life, the party, the this and that and the other. And so I know you had to be vested, because for me back then, I wasn't trying to have a girlfriend in college. That was, that's number one, right? So when you said you were in college and had a girlfriend and the girl cheated on you, and you were with her at least a year, that's pretty vested in college, today.
Right.
When you think
Right.
about
That's
it,
true too. Yeah.
you
That's
in
that's
there.
very true.
That pain, because you opened yourself up, you exposed your heart to this person, and then you said your mother said, get over it, and that's the thing that we always say to young men and boys,
Yep.
get over it. It's not always that simple to
Yeah.
get over it
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we as men expose ourselves, or
Self.
expose our heart, or expose our emotions, or show our feelings. We're giving our trust to somebody else.
Yes.
We're putting
Yeah.
our heart, our being, our thoughts, our weaknesses, especially if you have any kind of pillow talk, right? You
Mm-hmm.
sharing, your most intimate, your flaws. And when you said that, and that pain that you experienced from that situation, and I always believe pain ushers you into the place that God wants you to go, or the person that he's carving you out to become, right?
Mm. Mm.
Through those
Mm.
pains, or through the fervent heat that is being applied in your situation, whether that be a relationship, whether that be, business, whether that be household, whether it be lack of finances, whatever it is, it's all things work together for the good, right? To
Mm-hmm.
those who are the called according to God's purpose, right? So when you said that, and I thought about, when you said about how it hurts you, I'm thinking about when I got into different circumstances in relationships past and so forth, when I would call myself now that I got hurt or let down or disappointed and that armor went back up, when you start
Mm-hmm.
saying, now I'm gonna do me.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm
Right.
going to do me.
Right.
I'm not gonna
Right.
have no feeling or emotion about nobody, no women. If it is what it's gonna be, I'ma do me. And I think that can be a good place, but it can be a very dangerous place.
Woo. Yes, sir.
Very
Yes,
dangerous
sir.
place
Yes, sir.
because and you tell me how you feel about this, because you become selfish, self-centered, egotistical, you become a user, because now you're not concerned about the female or the person that you are engaging in whatever type of relationship, whether it be a one night stand or fiance type situation. You're not thinking about the other person in life. We as men have to be selfless. And I always believe in business or in relationships, your net worth is your net worth.
Mm-hmm.
So give me your feelings and your thoughts on that. I'm gonna do me and that whole thing, and how you become hardened where you don't cry. You're not caring about people.
Yeah. And like you said, that becomes a very dangerous place,
Mm-hmm.
because here's the thing about walls. They keep people out, but it also keeps you. Oh, yeah, it keeps people out, but it also keeps you in. You become locked
Woo!
in. You become
Woo!
locked in,
That's good,
and
brother.
like you said, you don't allow yourself to be connected
Mm.
to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote these three things down,
Yeah, give
because
it
I
to
knew we
us.
were going to be talking about men. And we talked about transparency, emotion, and connectedness.
Mm-hmm.
When we put these walls up, we never transparent because the people can't see into who we are.
Yes.
We're not we lack emotion because the wall is there. So anything that we try to give off
Mm-hmm.
just bounces back to us.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the connectedness, we don't allow ourselves to be connected to anyone. Like you said, whether it's the one night stand or
Mm-hmm.
whether it's getting into relationships, and a woman says, well, you lack emotion.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yep.
not emotional. And I've one of my ex-girlfriends, I'd lie to you not, Daryl, she was emotionless.
Mm.
And I used to always be like, well, why are you this way, that way? And in our conversations, I kind of understood why the wall was put up there. But I'm like, I'm not those people that
Those
hurt you.
people. Yep.
I'm not
Yep.
the people that hurt you. I'm
Yeah.
somebody that is trying to show you that I'm here to be there for you, so that you
Mm-hmm.
can feel that vulnerability
Yeah.
that we can feel. And I think that when we don't allow ourselves um to do these three things, when we don't allow ourselves to be transparent, emotional, or connected, we wind up
Mm.
doing our, being selfish, like you said,
Yeah.
but also we wind up damaging the people that we come in contact with,
Yes.
whether it's
Yes.
family,
Yeah.
whether it's friends,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a significant other, because we don't allow ourselves, to go through. We don't, and I think we do it because we don't want to go through that hurt
That hurt
again.
again. Yep.
So we would rather not to have any emotion
Yep.
than to show the emotion
Yeah.
and to go through the hurt again, because it's no fun
Yeah.
having to pick yourself up, dust yourself
Dust
off,
yourself
and
off.
having to get to know someone else
Yeah.
all over again.
Absolutely.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Absolutely.
And it becomes, and I think that that's what's happened to so many people, and why they do become hard-hearted,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to experience that hurt anymore.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm
Absolutely.
tired of being hurt. I'm tired of
Mm-hmm.
having to pick myself up, tired of having to open myself up to somebody,
Yep.
and all they do is taking my emotions and taking my heart and walking all over them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's real.
They feel it's easier to just like
To
you
shut
said,
down.
to be
Yep.
like, nope, I'm doing me.
They feel
I'm
it's
not gonna
easier.
care about.
They feel as though it's easier to exist than to actually live.
Right.
They feel,
You know.
hey, shout out to John, man. What's going on, man?
Yeah.
So listen, man. I like, this topic, is just like is but we get to the core. When you talked about, and I remember teaching one of my classes, which was a CNA class, about
Okay.
30 women, maybe two guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to do a prayer at the beginning of each class and some other things that I do just to feel what God wants me to do aside from the actual teaching of the actual course.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this one particular, it was like a heaviness that was in the room.
Mm.
And so it's more women in the room, two guys,
Of
maybe.
course. Right.
And I remember saying or starting out to say that, because we're teaching women and teaching men how to not live at the same financial place. You're about to move into other realms in business and so forth. And I remember saying to them, I want to start out by standing proxy for the father who wasn't there, the baby's father who you had a baby for, and you believed that, you were going to be married, have the picket fence and the whole thing, for the man that hurt you or used you or slept with you or broke your virginity, and he stepped off, and man, I'm telling you, brother, when I stood in that proxy position and I apologized to them, and me apologizing to them for what they were going through was also me cleansing myself from the women that I hurt along my journey that I wasn't prepared or ready for, because I wasn't mature, because I was a millionaire, and of course, you never had money, so you're doing all kind of stuff. And I hurt women along the way, and I wasn't man enough or mature enough to say, I'm not ready for you. You're ahead of where I am. I'm going to step out the way so that you can meet the man that you are supposed to be with. And just like you said, when you were telling the young lady that I'm not him, I'm not them, well, we caused that problem. We, the men, we caused that problem in them, that they cannot, that they are so confused, or that it's so cloudy, that when the right man that God has for them comes along, they can't tell, or they're not at the prepared place of cleanliness. And when I say that, I mean abstinence, because every time we continue to sleep with people, right, we take on those personalities and we take on all of that, and we don't ever get cleaned out enough to be divorced enough, but yet we run around talk about how we want to be married. And so in this class, I had 30 women in this class. I myself was crying. They were crying, and like nobody's ever apologized to me, or they were saying like, Mr. Lee, I never got that apology from my baby's father, or I never got that apology or that why from my mother. From my father, he wasn't there, that why he wasn't there. It was so powerful. I realized that the power of influence that we as men have on our women, but also the power that our women and influence that they can have on us to make. And I don't like the word change, because I think the word change is temporary. I like the word transformation, or to be transformed. And we have that ability to do that. But we have to get to a place, Leroy, like you were saying, of vulnerability, of being vulnerable, and taking our time and choosing the right partner, and being men. We don't have to sleep with everything all the time just because it's beautiful and comes in a nice package. And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong. I'm just simply saying, when you get to a mature place that you come to yourself, as the Bible talks about, old things are passed away, behold, all things become new. When are we, and I teach these classes with the men about abstinence and as my wife coined the phrase, remixing your life, that you can begin again. You can begin again. I was celibate for 4 years, and man, I'm telling you, I was a big time player, XXXXX. And I never cried. And I never showed emotion. And yet I had great relationships or great people, but I wasn't in touch with my true soul like self, the very being of who I am and who I am to be and whose I am. So speak a little bit about that, that your process to get to where you are now, and in relationships, whether it be personal relationships or intimate relationships, what have you, in business or male to male, how you've been able to transform that and make amends for, or grow up or grow through some of those old things.
Well, I'll start with the male to male relationships, because I have very few people that are in my circle, and that's just the person that I am. I'm not a be out, having to always be out type person. I'm a quiet person. I'm just as comfortable being in the house by myself, watching good TV, watching good movie, doing stuff as I am. I'm not an extrovert, as they call it, or whatever.
Right,
so the pandemic has not been a big thing to me. I'm like, what y'all crying about? I'm like, oh, I'm enjoying this. I ain't got no, yeah. I'm like, but one of the things that I have learned being at my church, the church that I go to, one of the things that drew me to my church was the connectedness that the men have at my church. And it's intentional, because of the way that my pastor, he has this affinity for wanting men to understand what it is to be a man.
Wow.
And growing up, I've been a member of my church since I was 23.
Wow.
I learned, and I've told my pastor this, I learned the understanding of what it is to be a man through him. Through him, seeing him as an example, but also listening to him. The Bible study, the men's classes that we have, where it's just us men. Where we have conversations like this.
Real talk.
It's a group of real talk, where what goes on in that room stays in that room.
Yep.
And we can be vulnerable. We know that we can talk about any and everything in that room amongst us as men, because it's a different animal. The things that we go through, we as men don't go through the same thing that women go through, just like they don't go through the same things that we go through. And there has to be this space that we can feel what we call the safe space. That safe space where we can discuss things and let that emotion out. Because we might not be able to do it all the time with our spouse. We should be able to do it at certain aspects with our wife. Right. But there's a lot of women out here today that will use that and will see that man as being weak. And let's be real, women. They'll in an argument, in a heartbeat, they'll throw it. And that's part of why men are emotionless too, is because they've had women who will throw certain things back up in their face. It's like, they'll throw it back up in your face, or they'll try and use it as a whatever, maybe a reason to leave the relationship, or to say that you're soft and you're weak, and all of these things that go along with it. So you have to be vulnerable. So having that that male to male relationship, just your boys that you can sometimes, you need somebody to vent to. To be able to talk to. Like, dude, she drives me crazy. And what we find when we do that, when we allow ourselves to be open and honest with each other as men, we can find out that, hey, another brother may have gone through what it is that you're going through. And you find out from them how they handled it. Well, how did you handle that?
And
she had been, exactly. So that's to me how I see the male to male relationship. Having that male to female relationship, it is one too that can be, like I said, our relationships are our experiences that we've had when it
Yeah.
comes to relationships. Like I
Yeah.
told you, the women that I've been involved with, and everything like that, there's some similarities, but there's also some things that I'm just like, I learned some things.
Yeah.
I learned about being emotional. And I
Mm-hmm.
had, like I said, one of my ex-girlfriends, I mean, it literally hit me smack dab in the face one
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
because I was like, well, and like, here we go with another transparent moment. But, but she was, she would sleep on the couch, and
Mm-hmm.
she would sleep on the couch with her back to the back part of the couch.
To the back
And
part.
I
Yeah.
used yeah. And I used to get upset. I'm like, well, won't you come get in the bed?
Right.
But she would continue to sleep on the couch. And I mean, I literally we had a conversation
Right.
about it.
Right.
And she said this to me. And she said, maybe I sleep on the couch because it's where I feel safe.
Ooh.
And
Ooh.
I was like, ouch.
Wow.
I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like, I'm like, ooh, I'm like, Leroy, you are such a heel. Because it
Mm.
didn't dawn on me because of what she had gone through. And,
Yeah.
and it, nobody knows who she is, but she had been molested
Oh,
when
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
she was little, when she was younger, not
Right.
just molested, but she was molested by her father.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of that stuff was her safe place,
Yeah.
was the couch.
Mm-hmm.
It was how she kind of, I guess, sometimes kept him at bay or whatever, where
Right.
he
Right. Right.
couldn't get
Right.
behind her or whatever. So I was like, oh wow. And that's all I can say.
Yeah. You couldn't. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just like, you idiot, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, so we learn things that as men, we can't just be like, well, this way and that way, or
Yeah.
things aren't just black and white, but taking
Right.
time to learn and
Right.
understand why some things go the way that they are. Some people are the way that they are. And that's what
Yeah.
that relationship taught me was,
Yeah.
man, you got to take the time to actually pay attention, to listen,
Mm.
and have
Yeah.
those, if you have the conversations and you allow yourself to be vulnerable and open,
Yeah.
they will as well. and
So
and,
listen,
and that
man. We
was,
listen, man. Listen, man. I hear you. We definitely got to do a part two about this, man.
yeah,
Time is winding
absolutely.
down, brother.
Yep.
This was just amazing, man. But I just want to say one thing that you said that was key is, and I've been doing this, is learn is linking up with other like-minded brothers and having that core group. Whether it's one, if you get one, you mean
Hmm.
you good. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? But if you have a core group of brothers like-minded, going in the same direction, and you know that in itself is just a blessing, man. Listen, we're running out of time. We're going to definitely do a part two. I'm sorry, we definitely are, definitely going to do a part two about this. And, and I want to say, uh, men, women, we cannot conquer what we do not confront.
Mm.
We have to confront the issues in order for us to be able to come to resolution and learning and understanding, man. So listen, I want to thank how can people get in touch with you, Leroy, and get your book and so forth? Quickly, few minutes.
Sure. If they want to connect with me, they can go to the website, www.jnfenterprises.com. That's the letter J, the letter N, the letter F, enterprises.com. I'm on social media, on Instagram at JNF Enterprises LLC, on Facebook, JNF Enterprises LLC, or under my name, Leroy McKenzie Jr. All of those outlets, they
Right.
can email me as well at JNF Enterprises LLC at gmail.com as well too. And I thank you for having me on,
Man,
brother Daryl. This has been awesome.
part
This has
two,
been a
brother.
great
Part
dialogue.
two, part
Yeah.
two.
And I
Healing.
appreciate you allowing me to be the first one on your show
This is
too,
good,
son.
brother. I need you. Healing, deliverance, resolution. I want to thank everybody for joining me on the mandate. I'm going to see you guys soon. Thanks for watching, and we'll be in touch every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, IG Live. God bless. Blessings. Thank you, Leroy.
All right, you too, brother.